And welcome to Visions. Today our guest is Mervyn Vogt, who is the State President of Whistleblowers of Australia and the National President of Whistleblowers Assist. Welcome to the program, Mervyn.
Thank you, Marilla.
Can you first start by telling us what is a whistleblower, for those who don't know?
A whistleblower is a person who has seen or experienced some injustice. Often they're people who have seen injustice done towards other people and they feel very upset about it and they try and do something about it. So the term itself is fairly recent, though it goes back a long way in terms of the actions. I think perhaps in the 13th century in England was the beginning of it, when people had done the wrong thing by the king, who was the head of state and the head of the community. And a thing was brought in called qui tam, where an ordinary citizen could, on behalf of the king, take action against those who were cheating the people or cheating the government. It seems to have gone out of use in recent decades in the UK. It was taken up during the Civil War by the Americans, who are the only people who have, I think, an action now called qui tam, and they used it to try and correct the injustices that were going on within the Civil War. They brought in an act which meant that people who saw things being done wrong, where the government was being cheated, I think probably the most famous one would be in Grapes of Wrath, where meat was being delivered to the soldiers in the field and it was crawling with vermin. It was old meat. The government had paid for prime beef, and actually the things falling out of it going along the street, it was that bad. And the government was obviously being cheated, so they said, well, okay, we'll pass this law, you blow the whistle and start the action on behalf of the government, and then the Attorney General or his equivalent over there would take up the case, and anything they recovered from the big corporations, the qui tam person would get a third to, or around about a third of whatever the government was saved, which was big money and still is these days.
And what sort of people are whistleblowers? What attracts them to become a whistleblower as well?
They're a particular group of people who have a very strong sense of justice and an even stronger sense of injustice. They don't like to see it, they don't like to experience it. In Australia, it's not about money. A lot of the American, they have actually many law firms that are dedicated to qui tam cases, but here, no, it's not that. There's nothing to be gained anyway at the moment, but they want to see justice done.
And what do you think when people are just focused on money, like achieving money for justice or for whatever their gains are, how can people just become living a simple life and be happy with their own lives rather than always chasing something?
These people can see there is a lot within our society today which is unjust. Laws are obviously badly drafted and are not doing what they're supposed to do. I can well understand those people who take up arms in such a situation, but there's no need to. If people could understand that whistleblowing is a positive way about getting change in the government, in corporations, then perhaps they could direct their energies towards a positive way of changing society. Violence just creates further violence. Those people who correct things the right way are generating goodwill in the whole society.
And what is the role of a whistleblower? What is their process? What do they go through to get something done? If someone was looking and wanting a job as a whistleblower, what do they need to know? There
is no such job as a whistleblower.
A volunteer.
It is a calling. It's unpaid. There are no professional whistleblowers. It's not done for money. It's done because they want the right thing done. They're all voluntary. Most of them work for a long time on their own, quietly. They start to get ostracised by their own families and their neighbours who say, well, you've got a bee in your bonnet, why don't you get a life and go out and do something else? Why are you, forget about it. But these people can't. It's an injustice. It needs correction. and they're determined to correct it. And thank goodness for people like this.
Absolutely, making the world a better place. How did you become a whistleblower yourself?
Well, it was exactly those sorts of things. I saw things that needed correction in education originally, went out and tried to do something about it. Later on I saw other people in trouble and tried to help with those sorts of things. I've taken legal cases against big corporations in an attempt to get justice for people. Things where in occupational health and safety, for instance, the wrong thing has been done by people. Employers have attempted to avoid their responsibilities and leave the poor person on the sidelines suffering from what they've got. Now that's not good enough in my book, and I was prepared to go in, use what skills I had and help these people where I could. We've had some good positive results. You can win, and that's a message I'd like to get across. I've taken 2 landmark cases against the biggest corporations in the country and have won.
You've won.
I've won, and that sets the precedence. If people want to see about them, they can read about them on the websites. The details of the cases are there, and perhaps it'll help for them to see how they can go about it.
What are some difficulties that whistleblowers face?
Oh, right at the very start, as soon as people become aware that they're whistleblowing within an organisation, there are several interesting things go on. Firstly, the corporation or the government department will attempt to discredit them. They'll then tell them they're the only person in the country with this problem. And of course there's so little communication, they tend to believe these things. It's not true. I have a case where one that I took within the Industrial Relations Commission, the lady had been told she's the only person in the country with this sort of thing. We believed that. We got some justice for this lady. However, as a result of the publicity I got calls from all over the country from people who had been told exactly the same thing. They were the only people in the country. Now, insurance companies, of course,
that's terrible.
have a vested interest in making sure that some of this information isn't out there. I think that perhaps one of the most famous whistleblowers we have internationally is Erin Brockovich, that beautiful lady.
Well, we're about to go to a break now. You're watching Visions. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.